Okay, wait. I'm just going live now, and I'll hit the intro, and I'll read your bio, and then we'll get right into it. And okay, it's things moving like a turtle. Okay, there we go. Okay, guys, I'm gonna try to hit the intro and see if it works, but it's been backfiring on me, so I don't know. But we got an amazing show today lined up. We got Laura Aversano with us. This is her third time on my show. I really like the information she brings each time. So, I invited her back, yeah, it'll keep playing over and over again. It'll keep doing it. Okay. Okay. So there's the mute. So I'll turn that off now. Okay. That should be good. Okay.
Now we can
Perfect.
hear you.
Okay.
Went out for a minute.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic Podcast. I still hear that intro playing in the background. I don't know why that's doing that. All right.
I don't hear it on this end.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the... Okay, that's good. Good. Okay. I have with me today. We're going to be getting into medical intuition and ancestral healing, and just for like YouTube purposes, this is for entertainment, educational, and spiritual growth purposes. We're not trying to diagnose, treat, or give any medical misinformation. Like, I don't want YouTube, striking me with a medical misinformation thing. We're not trying to diagnose or heal anybody. Yeah, I mean, we are. It's an alternative form of healing that, a lot of my followers like, and that Laura believes in. But we're not trying to diagnose anybody. I think that I just have to say that for YouTube purposes. But anyway, so we're going to be getting into medical intuition and ancestral healing with Laura Aversano. Laura is a New Yorker. She's a renowned medical intuitive, ancestral conduit, and spiritual author who's maintained an international clientele for over 30 years. Her profound work bridges the physical and spiritual, offering insight into the connections between health, trauma, ancestry, and healing. Through her books and client work, Laura helps people uncover the unseen layers of illness that empower them to reclaim their balance in their body, mind, and spirit. You can learn more about her work at lauraaversano.com. And then I also wrote, in this episode, Laura Aversano joins Robert of the Typical Skeptic Podcast to share her expertise on medical intuition, the ability to perceive the energetic and spiritual roots of illness. We'll explore how ancestral patterns, trauma, and spiritual imbalances can manifest in the body, and how deep intuitive insight can guide the path towards healing. And with all that said, I'd like to give her a big warm welcome back to the show. Laura, thanks so much for coming back on. How are you?
Thank you. That was quite the introduction. It's good to be here again. I enjoy working with you.
Thanks. Yeah, I feel the same. Yeah, this is awesome. Yeah. So, where would you want to start off with this? Like, where would be the best place to start with, like, medical intuition?
I think with my first impression of my abilities to intuit somebody's medical condition. How's that?
So
Can you hear me?
you have yeah, I can hear you. You have the intuitive abilities to sense what's wrong with someone before they even know it even?
Absolutely. And that happens on various levels. I remember, I think I was 19 or 20, and this young boy was walking by me, and he was visiting my home, and I was sitting at the table, and I remember he walked by me, and I kind of leaned over on the table, and I didn't understand what was happening. And then I picked myself back up, and then he was playing around, and I started to get visual impressions of not just energy fields, but organs, tissues, what was happening in his body. And through my clairaudience, I also heard various diagnoses. And obviously, I didn't say nothing to the child, but later on, I had a conversation with his mother, and I asked permission if I can share some semblance of what I had witnessed. And she gave her permission. And I think that was my first experience of actually, I'm using the term loosely, diagnosing somebody with my abilities.
Yeah.
And then it just progressed from there.
Yeah,
And my
that's amazing.
my understanding progressed from there. So I'm
Yeah.
very clear. I don't know how other medical intuitives work. I've only had the fortunate ability to meet one, and I think we all work differently, I am very careful to mention the word diagnose, but
Yeah.
there's many times that I have, and there are many times that I've only been able to look at the emotional influences or the psychic influences or the spiritual influences and look at patterns and miasms and also ancestral and epigenetic history and then form a diagnosis.
Yeah, let's talk about epigenetics for a little bit. Like, how do you see epigenetics playing a role in this, and like, how does it play a role in all of our predetermined illnesses that we can get?
Sure. Epigenetics is a study of how influences on DNA affects gene expression. The DNA itself doesn't change, but our responses to trauma, our inherited responses, do affect how the genes express themselves and react and respond to trauma. I also kind of interplay spiritual epigenetics with that. I look at it how your mother may respond, your grandmother, your great grandmother, your ancestors from 400 years ago. I look at their reaction to their environment, their reaction to their culture, their reaction to trauma, their reaction to foods. I've seen instances in people that where their illness can trace back 3 or 4 generations of
Wow.
it's I've just I used to write down my cases in a journal. And to this day, it still just fascinates me the things that I learn and bear witness to.
Now, have you ever gotten like confirmations where like you've like diagnosed
Yes.
somebody with something, and then like the medical
Oh, yeah.
professional, they went to a medical professional, and the medical professional says the same thing?
Oh, yes. I remember plenty of stories. I remember one time an acupuncturist was curious about my abilities and he had me visit his office in Manhattan. And he said, I want you to diagnose her. And I pulled him closer and I said, she needs to get an MRI. I think she's got a brain tumor. He said, you're actually correct. She does. And
Wow.
just instances like that. And there was another time when I was working with somebody whose husband was dying and he had just come from surgery. And I said, they need to go back in. They missed something. And I couldn't tell what it was, but I can tell where it was. And I kept saying, trust me, they need to go back in. And for some reason, something made them go back in, and I was correct. And I'm very cautious about what I share with clients, especially as I've matured and gotten older over the years, because many times I can't tell. There's no timeline in the spirit world. And there's no timeline in the etheric field, and not everything that I see in the etheric field will actually ground. So there are times that I will see things, and I've had clients that have been with me for 20, 25 years. I've seen their children, now their grandchildren, and it's fascinating when they tell me they've kept journals of our sessions. So they're like, do you remember when you said this 10 years ago? And of course I don't. And they're like, well, it happened or came true. So sometimes things in the energy field may not necessarily manifest physically. It's almost like just an imprint of an illness that could come, or an imprint of an illness that your grandmother had or your great grandmother had. And how we live our lives can influence whether or not that illness actually happens.
Do you still recommend that your patients usually, or the people that you're diagnosing, do you still recommend that they go see a regular doctor as well? And do most times they
Absolutely.
have to see a doctor?
Absolutely. If somebody, again, when somebody calls specifically for a medical intuition session, I let them know when I confirm via email that, again, I'm not there to diagnose, but it doesn't mean I may not actually say, okay, I'm seeing this virus flare up. I'm seeing something go on. I want you to go and see a doctor or practitioner. So many times I do recommend, if I'm seeing something or if there's a flag that's coming up in me, uh, to go to a medical professional.
Yeah, and what I was going to say, Laura, is it's like, like the police even, use psychics nowadays, like, and they've used them for a long time to crack cold cases, to do
Yep.
remote viewing, to find, people who they can't find, and a lot of times the psychics are right. You know what I mean? So the fact that like YouTube kind of poo-poos on this a little bit, which they do, they're always trying to hit me with a medical misinformation policy. But hopefully they won't do it on this. I'm hoping that we're explaining everything in a proper way to where we're showing both sides of it. But yeah, but I mean, I just think it's amazing that the police have used psychics for years.
Yes,
So why, if the police are using them for to crack cold cases, why wouldn't it be good for people to use it for medical as well? You know what I mean? It's just another sense.
absolutely.
It's like the sixth sense, right? It's like we all have it. Some people are more talented than
Absolutely.
others.
Absolutely. I think doctors should utilize people like myself to possibly see. And again, I have worked with various I still remember this famous naturopath in Connecticut, and when I was leaving his office, his secretary's husband, who was dying of cancer, I can't remember the information that I gave her, but it was something that I think they thought he was in remission. And I must have mentioned something like, you need to get him back to the hospital. And it might have been some part of his body. And I never forget, I think she called me a few years ago out of the blue just to let me know you saved my husband's life because what you said, the doctors were incorrect. And you gave
Wow.
him an extra 6 months. And again, it's not, I'm, one of the things I preface with each session is I'm not God. Thank God for that. I am not going to see 100% by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not going to hear 100%. I'm human. I have my own filters, but I will do my best with what I hear, see, and sense and feel and provide insight, clarity, and tools.
Yeah. And now, in your experience, how do we kind of talked about this a little bit, but I'd like to get into it more.
Yes.
Like in your experience, how do ancestral patterns and trauma show up in the body's illness?
The ancestors can literally attach to your energy field or embed themselves in organs.
Wow.
And from their traumatic experiences, and that intense energy, that heavy energy can create illness. Sometimes when I'm working with people, I'll frame something like this. I'll say, your uterus is ancient, because when I scan the body, I body track. I will start from head to toe unless spirit brings me somewhere. And if somebody's having, let's say a woman's calling me with hormonal issues, I might say your uterus looks ancient. My sense is you have your grandmother's uterus, the imprint of it inside of you. And I'll say something like, did your grandmother have a hysterectomy? And then a client might say, yes, she did. And I'll say, okay, the trauma from that hysterectomy is literally influencing your hormonal imbalances. So
Wow.
it's not just about suggesting that you see somebody to work with your hormones, or I will suggest herbs for hormones. It is about also working with the trauma that her grandmother experienced from losing her womb.
Yeah. Like, do you get hits on people like right away? Does it just come to you like when you see a person, like sometimes, or like?
Um, you know, it used to all the time, but I try to just tune that out. I try to shut down as best I can, but if it does come through me, I let it go past me.
Yeah.
Yeah, very quickly.
You, yeah, because you don't want to. You don't want to. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Too much information, none of my business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And,
then,
and there are times, I won't lie, that I have seen something and I sit there in the middle of the street and I pray. I'm like, is it appropriate for me out of the blue to approach this person and say, hey, and start a conversation? How are you feeling? I've done that a few times here and there.
yeah. Yeah, and then I was going to ask you: do certain physical ailments tend to be connected more strongly to inherited or generational trauma? Like, do you see certain patterns of things that like kind of repeat in
Mental
people?
mental illness, mental illness, hormonal imbalances. Those are the two that I see. Um, bone issues, osteoporosis, osteopenia, bone density issues, neurological issues, yeah, and obviously cardiac.
What about autoimmune disorders?
I don't actually, for me, my experiences, especially in the last 30 years, autoimmune disorders had been on the rise.
I
Where
know,
their
right? That's why
parents,
that's why I
yeah,
said that. It's weird,
where
and
their
they're
parents didn't
really
have them. Yeah, their parents didn't have them. There might have been, again, epigenetic imprints from emotional trauma, but because of our environment and 5G, 6G, 7G, whatever it is these days, there are more autoimmune diseases popping up out of the blue.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you do a session, what do you see or sense in a client's body? Do you sense energy or do you actually see disease? Like,
It all of the above. When they first get on the phone and they ask me to look and scan, again, I'll scan from top to bottom, and their physicality will actually come through my body. So through various means, I might start saying, okay, I'll start with structure. I'll be like, T4, there's a subluxation, T3, T4. You've got TMJ, your cervical spine, T1, T2 is there scoliosis that I'm seeing. I see a hunchback. And then I'll start to actually go from organ to organ and look at the organs. I'll start looking at the dampness, the coolness. I'll start looking at viral frequencies in the organs. I'll start looking for diabetes. And again, things will also come through me through clairaudience.
wow. And can anybody book a session with you about this? Like if anybody's like worried about their health, can anybody kind of just like book a session with you? Like,
Yes.
wow, that's amazing. So yeah, I know we got a lot of guys, and Joyful Jennifer is in the audience. She says, "Wow, Laura, what a gift! It really is that is an amazing gift. Like to
Thank
be
you.
able to, and we need more people like you in the world. We really do. Do you feel like you're guided by spirit, ancestors, or a higher intelligence during your readings, or all the
Spirit
above?"
first. Yeah, all the above. I was going to say spirit first, ancestors second if they need to come in. I had a session last week where sometimes ancestors don't want to talk to me. I've had ancestors come in and I'm doing relationship counseling around an illness between a living client and an ancestor who might be yelling at me on the other side because they don't want to partake in the session or they don't want to do their inner work.
Yeah. Wow. That's
Yeah,
yeah,
so
and somebody just in the
fascinating.
audience, somebody in the audience just asked, "Am I taking questions?" Yeah, you guys can put your questions in the chat. I'll pick the best ones, and if you guys have like specific questions, yeah, for sure, you can put your questions in the chat. Okay.
But you
Do
said
you?
something poignant
How do
before.
you?
There are more illnesses now than there were 50 years ago, even for animals.
Do you think that's just? Do you think that's just because the way our society is and the way we're treating our bodies and the food we're
Uh,
eating and the air
All
we're
the above.
breathing and the water we're
Food,
drinking?
water, air. Yes, all the above. Environment, food, water, air, everything. Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, I
Absolutely.
would
And
agree.
and the medical system. The medical system.
Yeah,
Overuse
it
of
definitely is upside
medications,
down.
overuse of many things. Yep. Yeah, it's all
Well,
contributing.
and I know this is cliche to say, but it seems like when they prescribe someone something, they use that as like a band-aid. They're not healing the person. They're just fixing. They're covering up the symptom. You know what I mean? It's like they're band-aiding the symptom. They're not actually healing. You know what I mean?
I agree. I agree. And I think there's a place for
Yeah.
both. Um, I know I have a lot of clients who will not go near Western medicine, but there's a place for both. There really is.
Yeah. I think there is too. I think we have to. I mean, even though like people in our community don't trust the medical system that much, because they may have been felt like they've been wronged by it. Like I think we have to still trust it because like there's certain things we absolutely need the Western medicine system for. Like if we
Agreed.
break our arm, like a
Agreed.
shaman's not going to be able to,
Agreed.
unless they know
Agreed.
how to
Or if
put
you
your
really,
joints back
yeah,
in place.
absolutely. Or if you really need an antibiotic, agreed.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, or a
Um,
surgery,
say it was.
pacemaker.
Yeah. Now, how do you distinguish between intuition and imagination? What validates it for you? Like, do you get any senses that validate your findings?
Honestly, I think it's the being in practice for, as of next year, 30 years and referral. My practice was built on referral and word of mouth way before my books came out. And now that I'm seeing grandchildren of my initial clients, I think that's an honor and validation enough for me. And when people have told me
Wow.
that I've helped them, I've gotten them better, I've saved their lives, either or. I'm grateful. I'm
Yeah. And
truly
how
grateful.
receptive has the Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Now, how receptive has the medical field been to medical intuition today compared to when you first started? Have you seen a change in in their acceptance of it?
Um, the people that I work for my own health are receptive of me. I don't know about out there. I think functional medicine doctors are more receptive, but again, sometimes there are functional medicine doctors that have just gotten on the bandwagon, for lack of a better phrase right now, and they work more like Western medical doctors, where they're really just, prescribing a ton of herbs, a ton of supplementation, and not really listening to the patient.
Yeah. And I get some really good questions today. Do you believe that the chronic illnesses like that people get diagnosed with, or even autoimmune issues, do you think those have spiritual or emotional roots sometimes, or a lot of times?
I think there are emotional roots to every illness. It doesn't mean they're the direct cause. And I think there's spiritual roots to every illness. It doesn't mean they're the direct cause or 100% the direct cause. Because I've seen people with
Yeah.
with evil, I've seen people with evil over them and they're rarely sick. I mean, I think there's no rhyme or reason is what I'm trying to say. I don't
Well,
adhere to the Go ahead.
I was just going to tell you, I have a fascinating something this might interest you. So
Please.
when I broke up with my ex girlfriend like 2.5 years ago, or maybe it was 3 years ago now. It was definitely 2023, but or, I think yeah. But regardless, like I was so hurt by that breakup that a few months after the breakup, when I was still really going through it, I found out I had fatty liver, and what was happening was I was getting like really bad like pains in my liver. You know what I mean? Like I was
Wow.
getting and I went to the doctor. I went to Western medicine. They said I had fatty liver, and they said there was absolutely nothing they could do for me. So I was like, well, I guess I just have to live with this pain. Well, then I talked to my good friend Matthew Morney, and he's like an energy healer as well, and he's like you could say he's a medical intuitive as well for sure. And he told me about Tudka,
Yes,
Tudka is
excellent for
amazing
that.
for liver gallbladder,
Yep,
and it's helped me so much. I don't even have liver pain anymore. But anyway, but like I
good.
wasn't getting into that. I wasn't getting into my what I was saying was like
Go ahead.
it was I felt like it was the emotional wound that caused the physical. Like I feel like if I wouldn't have been so hurt over that breakup, maybe that wouldn't even happen. You know what I mean? Like I really think that I manifested some kind of illness because of like my emotional pain, you know?
I'm I hear you, and I thank you for sharing that. I'm really careful of the wording that I use with people. So again, Louise Hay used to speak about that, how this causes this causes this causes this. And then during the Louise Hay years, and God rest her soul, she was quite the pioneer. There are many people that used to come to me and say, well, this illness happened because I was like this. And then when they healed that emotional wound, the illness may have not gone away. And so then they were left stupefied, similar to the medical medium saying that Epstein-Barr causes everything. And I'm more loose-minded when it comes to causation of illness. And I don't deter people from having their own belief systems around it. Again, I do believe emotions can contribute. Of course, environment can contribute, family history can contribute, spiritual energies can contribute, trauma contributes. And so you kind of explore every realm and bring into balance what you can.
Yeah. I agree. That's what, yeah, yeah. And getting into like practices and like tips, like, would you say there's any daily practices you could recommend for people to strengthen their own intuition about their health?
I think that people like to go up into the psychic realm. And I'm not saying that's not a good thing to do, but I usually ask people to go inside your body. Sit down with the journal. Talk to your heart, talk to your liver, talk to your gallbladder. Instead of trying to receive information from up above, why don't you go into your body and see what your body's needing from you? Your body will usually tell you.
Yeah,
Yeah. There are times, and I write about it on
yeah,
Facebook, there are times that I sit or stand at Whole Foods in front of the vegetables waiting for my body to respond to the energies of the vegetables to see what I might need. And that's how I plan my week.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I will see if my kidneys are deficient or my liver's deficient or my heart's deficient, and I will get foods that are in alignment with my body needs for that week.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, yeah. Um,
And that's the same
that's
way I work
amazing.
when I
Well,
recommend supplementation for clients. And that's part of plant spirit medicine. I don't just go, well, you've got a cold, let's do golden seal or echinacea. I'll buy it. Those are excellent. I try to take in everything that's happening with the person. What's going on with you this week? How
yeah,
are you feeling? Did you have any stress? And then I look at the cold, take into account the emotional influences, and then make a recommendation.
speaking of like fruits and vegetables, I was referring to like the red vegetable, like when fruits like watermelon and tomato, basically plants and vegetables that have lycopene in them, because like someone told me that lycopene can help fight diseases and stuff like that. Would you agree with that? Because I know you know a lot about supplements and nutrition as well.
I don't like to generalize like that, because again, watermelon may be good for somebody, but it may not be good for somebody else. Tomatoes may be good
Yeah,
for somebody, and for somebody who's sensitive to nightshades, it may not be good for them.
yeah,
Like I
yeah,
don't normally work with nightshades unless my liver is really stagnant, because I have a reaction to nightshades. But if my liver is having some trouble moving and I'm craving a lot of nightshades all of a sudden, I know that like means like, that some of the energetic toxicity of the way my body reacts to nightshades is going to actually meet my sluggish liver and help things move through. So again, it depends on what the
yeah,
person's going through. So not everything works for everybody. I really just think differently.
yeah, yeah. I had a theory. I had a funny theory about that. Like, is what I thought was like, like I'm part Italian. I think you are too.
Yeah.
And like
Yes.
I'm from Pittsburgh. It's kind of like New York. And I've had this theory about like some of the old school Italians that they lived like in their 80s and 90 years old. And I'm like, well, what are they doing? And I started thinking about like, well, they eat a lot of tomato sauce. Like homemade tomato sauce. Because they all make their own sauce. So it's
The
like, well,
tomatoes were
maybe it's the
different.
lycopene in the tomatoes. I don't know. Maybe that's kind of like my little theory there on that. But I mean, I could be completely wrong. I don't know.
No, it's funny. It's
But
a
I
family
want to live
member I
that long
know
too.
who came here from Sicily, had a colonoscopy. She came here a late teenager, had a colonoscopy, and the doctor said afterwards, and her diet after coming to America was good up until maybe 40s or 50s. And the doctor said, I've never seen a colon like that. It was amazing. He said, where did you grow up? And because when she was raised in Sicily, she ate off the land. They fished for their food, they grew their
Wow.
vegetables. Yeah. So again, food and the way food is grown today, as you know, there are many challenges with it, and the soil and the water and the air.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
And
it's
so
it's crazy that they're so certain companies, what they're doing just to make a profit, they're actually poisoning people to make a profit. It's
absolutely.
actually it's ridiculous. Kitsalaya wants to know, can you tell him any? I can't pull the comment up for whatever reason, but he wanted to know if you know of any preventative measures so people don't have to get medications and stuff like that. Like, um,
I think that's such a broad question. It's hard for me to answer. It's usually something I can answer when I'm working with a person to see their epigenetics and their threads. But I mean, the norm. Try to eat as healthy as you can, and that's different for everybody. I don't aspire to one specific diet. Again, I usually look at people's organs and see what's going on. Make sure you get plenty of rest and exercise. Movement is really important. The body was meant to move, not stand still.
yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah.
And
And
community,
uh,
community. Loneliness is a silent killer.
yeah.
So community is
How
very
can someone
important.
begin to? Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. Oh, you mean like tapping into the community and like, is that what you mean? Like,
Find a tribe, find a community in where you live. A lot of people are lonely. Check in on your elders, especially older people who've lost their significant other or whose children are not in the area. Check in on your elders in your community, but find community where you live. If you have friends that are far away, people need community. Again, loneliness is an incredible rampant disease. I'm calling it a disease because it's dis-ease that we are struggling with.
yeah. And then how can someone begin to tune into the language of their own body? Like,
Again, I would suggest sitting with a journal and possibly getting an anatomy book, looking where your organs are at. That will help so you kind of know what you're focusing in or where you're focusing in, and possibly putting your hands on that part of your body and just writing. It's free associate, just write what comes.
yeah, I love that. Yeah. And yeah. And is it good to trust your first thoughts, would you say? Or like how do we know what to trust is what to not to trust? You know what I mean?
I think with practice, I have to be honest, I think with practice.
Yeah.
I think with practice. Um,
Yeah.
I've seen people, to use your word, intuition, grow over the years. And I'm get so excited when they tell me, Laura, I felt that food was good for me, and it was. I felt better with it. Or Laura, I knew I needed to move. Or Laura, this herb felt right for me. So I do believe when people start creating relationships with foods that they eat, supplements or herbs that they might ingest, even the air they breathe, that they seem to know what's good for them.
Yeah. And then one of my questions was what role do compassion and forgiveness play in healing deep ancestral wounds?
A great role. That's a great question. I think forgiveness is one of the most challenging pieces of work that we all undertake in this lifetime. I never force forgiveness on victims of trauma. You can't force somebody to do the work of forgiveness if they're not ready. They have to go through stages of grief, of anger and or rage, of bargaining. It becomes an energy, a grace that actually comes through you at the time when it happens. So in the beginning, again, it's a
Yeah.
process. And then at the moment it happens, it's a grace that comes through you. And that grace enables a freedom towards that person or towards that experience that you never knew could exist. But it's not something I push on people. It's easy to talk the talk, but sometimes it takes lifetimes.
Yeah, I agree. And then you've worked with clients internationally for decades. Have you noticed any patterns across cultures?
Yes, yes, I have. Also, what's interesting is when my repeat clients call me when they're on vacation or they call me from Europe on vacation, their illnesses change or they feel better. So I see that environmentally. Um, I have a regular client in the southern states, and she was recently in Europe, and she's had a lot of chronic ailments through the years. And when she was in Europe, her health improved so much that even my mouth dropped open talking with her. I could feel it over the phone. And she said, yeah, I'm able to eat this food, eat this food, eat this food. I'm doing so much better here. And then when she came back here within 2 weeks, got very sick again. So environment does play a part. Food sources do play a part and
Yeah.
contribute to ailments. Um, I've seen clients with severe allergies in a certain area all of a sudden go to a different state on vacation and call me. And they're like, my allergies disappeared. What happened? Or I never had allergies and I'm visiting this place and all of a sudden I'm sneezing, I'm coughing, I'm wheezing. And so, again, environmental influences. And then there are also spiritual influences. People can visit a place with more intense and increased light and something happens. I call them portals. They feel better. There's a place here in New York that I frequent and I take friends to, and there's a reason because it's a portal. and the energy, it's maybe a 6 block radius, and the energy is so heightened. And so when I bring friends there, they're like, oh my God, my aches and pains are gone. What's going on? I'm like, it's a portal. Like, that's why you're feeling better.
That's cool.
It is.
That's really cool. And then,
It is.
would you say, is there a universal route? Yeah, like, is it a portal that's open all the time, or like, what? How does that
Yes.
work? Like,
Yes.
is it like a?
Heightened energy source. Like when people go to water springs, they're heightened energy sources. They're increased energy, natural springs that you find up in the mountains, and they feel better.
Oh, so it's just like a natural. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
It's a natural portal. It's just like a natural
natural, but
spring.
also
It's
there's a
just something we
spiritual
don't
connection.
perceive.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then, would you say, is there a universal root cause of a disease that you've observed, like, or would you say it's just maybe our environment, like what we talked about?
Again, environment is defined as not just physical, but spiritual, emotional, psychic, cultural. And so universal causes, I think, are inability to stay in stillness and surrender.
I love that, and yeah,
Mm.
and then that's a really good point. Yeah, and then this kind of follows up to that. Like, I was going to say, how do you personally protect and ground yourself when you're working with intense energies?
Me personally, I have a kitty clan. I love my animals. I love animals, all animals. I eat well. I do exercise, and I'm self-care has been important for me. It has, and I do my own inner work.
Yeah, shadow work, maybe. Is that what you
We're
would call
saying the
it?
same thing. Yeah, if you want to call it shadow work, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and yeah, this is fascinating. And then, what do you think? Or no, sorry, what do you hope people will take away from your books and your sessions, like, or even our talk today? What would you hope that people would take away from? Let's phrase it that way. What do you hope people will take away from this talk today?
They can learn to have a relationship with their own health. And again, health, not just meaning physical health, their emotional health and their spiritual health. I really hope that they
Yeah,
need to become friends with their bodies first and foremost. They also need to, or I'm hoping that they understand that there are ancestral influences that also interact with the way our health unfolds. That we pay attention
yeah,
to those ancestors beyond the veil that might be influencing how we feel in our lives. There might be some
yeah.
unhealed wounds there.
I was seeing if we have any questions. And you guys, if you have any more questions, put them in the chat, and we'll get to them. I know Kitsalaya wanted to ask about Reiki and something else. He asked, do they work? I feel like they do. Are you a big proponent for energy healing?
Oh yeah, I've studied. I've studied cranial sacral. I studied polarity. I studied a lot of forms of hands-on. Absolutely. I used to actually
Yeah.
practice it for years.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah.
People
I
used
feel
to
like a
drive
lot of, like,
4 hours for my injuries, for their injuries to see me.
wow. That's great. Yeah, this is amazing. And then let me see what other questions. If you guys have any other questions, we can put them in the chat now because we still have a little bit of time. Let's ask you this: where can people learn more about your work and connect with you for sessions and book a
Sure.
session?
On my website, lauraaversano.com, and there's a contact page. Also, interestingly, in a week and a half, I just started doing virtual classes. So in a week and a half, and I'm almost filled, I have my second virtual class on inherited anger and setting up boundaries. And that also, in fact, impacts the body. So how our responses to anger are inherited from our parents, our great grandparents, and the traumas they've been through, and how that affects health or can affect health. So if anybody's interested in that, definitely go to my contact page and let me know.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, guys, your last chance for questions. If you have any questions now before we go, you can put your questions in the chat now. I'll see,
And there's something
if
that
anybody
also
has
I might
any.
want to add. When I'm working with people, and my clients know this, when we're not feeling well, we're always in a rush to get better. I get that. We have to get back to work or get back to kids, get back to life. And sometimes the body is not in the same rush, or the spirit's not in the same rush as we are. So it may not be about inundating yourself with, you know, tons of herbs at once. It might just be slowing down and really listening to what you need. And I know our culture doesn't allow more time to heal, but if your body needs that extra day or so, try to see if there are ways that that can happen. And again, in our society, we just aren't so inclined to rush in getting better. And I see that so often. I've told so many clients, especially those
Uh,
who are working integratively, who might do, 10 protocols at once because they're wanting to quickly get over a serious illness. I'm like, there's no harm in slowing down.
oh, we got one donate. I got one donation from my friend Nat Janoff. He wanted to submit a question. I didn't see. I'm glad I checked on this. Like, can I ask you this question? He says, "Go Rob." He says, "Great show as usual." He says, "Hi Laura." This question's for you,
Hi.
Laura. Obviously, he says,
Sure.
"Hi
Hi,
Laura.
Rob.
My PSI numbers is yeah. His name's Nat Janoff.
Oh,
It's
Nat.
his.
Hi, Nat.
He's
Thought you said it was
yeah,
Rob.
yeah. He said. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. He says, "Hi, Laura. My PSI numbers for my prostate kind of keep getting higher. What can I do about that? And what can I do to have more energy? Are there any supplements that would help, or food, etc.? Thank you," he says.
Now that I can't answer, on your show, because the truth be told, Nat, is when people call me for something like that, I need to do a whole body scan, which takes a while, and see what else is going on with your body and what's contributing. I really do look at the environmental influences, your familial influences. Um, I listen to what medications you're on as well, and then I make suggestions. So my apologies, but that's not something I can answer online here in a virtual interview.
What about supplements and stuff? Like, is there anything he can do to, like, like supplements or foods that he should
Well,
be eating,
again,
like,
because
for the.
I don't know what medications he might be on, what other supplements he might be on. That's something, and when I work with people, I always ask them, send me the list of supplements and medications you're on first. So it's not something I could just generally share because I don't know what else is going on with them, just hearing that question. It would be irresponsible for me just to make
That's a
that
good
kind of
point.
suggestion. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, yeah.
it would.
Okay, and does anybody else have any other questions before we go today? And this was no, but I thought this was amazing. We almost went about 45 minutes, so we hit the exact time. So thank you, Laura. This was awesome. And do you just want to? I guess we could pick up now. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience before we go?
No, it's been great. I so really enjoy doing interviews with you. I'm just very grateful, Rob.
Yeah, I love this too. You're a wealth of knowledge. I love having you on the show because this is amazing, and I hope a lot of people book with you and take advantage of, like, the fact that you know how to do this, and like, it can help a lot of people. I'm sure you can help a lot of people. So yeah,
Thank
so
you.
I'm sure a lot of people will be messaging you after the show. Yeah,
Well,
because
I'm booking
everybody's
like
wondering about what they have wrong
December
with them.
onwards, so I book a few months in advance.
Yeah, because it takes time, right? Like, to do a body scan and stuff like that, that takes some serious time,
Well,
probably,
I'm booked
right?
with
Or like, or at
booked
least
with
an hour, I
clients
would
a few
think.
months. Yeah, I'm booked with clients a few months in advance already. But yeah, the sessions are an hour. And again, I try to get in a lot in that first hour. I try to scan. But let's say again, if somebody calls and they're wanting me to scan, all of a sudden I'm seeing a trauma, like you brought up the trauma with your girlfriend. I might say, I'm going to scan, but I'm going to tell you this. What's influencing you right now is something that happened, let's say last year. I'm seeing this relationship, so on and so forth. And so at some point before I scan or after we scan, please put that in your kind of, mind that it's something you've got to just kind of still process. And then I'll do the scan. So I would be remiss if I didn't just add other things that I saw around a person when they're calling about an illness. So again, I try to kind of do the whole picture
Yeah,
as quickly as I can. And sometimes it takes more than one session because there's just so much.
I agree. Yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah, that seems like it would be a lot. Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you so much. And Kim Princess, welcome. It seems like you're new to the chat, so glad to have you here. If you missed the show, rewind because we're at the end now. So you guys might have to go back and watch the show over. And yeah, I just want to thank everybody for being here today. Big thank you to Laura for coming on again. And yeah, I'd love to
Thank
do this
you.
again, Laura. And thank you,
Great.
everybody. And all right, and have a good night, everybody. And I'll be live again at 8 p.m. Eastern, guys, if you want to tune in. I have Jay Skyrunner coming on. It's going to be an amazing show. He's going to do rune readings for you guys. He'll be reading the runes, so we'll do that, and that'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern. And I'm going to go to the park now and get some air. So have a good night, everybody.
I hear
And thank
you.
you, Aura.